it's like that 24-hour period. I go to church, I sit in the pew, and then I kick it back, right after. Sun is going down. What hour does it go down? All right, and then I'm out. You know what I mean? It's like, why are we counting down the time that we're spending with God? Shouldn't that be every single day? And with the devil, he's like, I'll give you Sabbath. You can have Sabbath. Every other day is mine. You know what I mean?
Wow. Welcome back to Ministry Reimagined. I loved this episode because Reagan has a cool story that I think more people should hear. I loved hearing her perspective on the church and the way that ministry is run. Stay tuned. Hi, Reagan. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Celeste?
I'm doing good. I'm excited because I feel like there's a lot of things that people don't know about you. You know what I mean? I think there's so much more to Reagan than people realize, and I'm excited for that to be shown.
Very true. Very true.
That's funny. Well, let's talk. First, let's have you... I don't want to ask you to introduce yourself because that's such a lame question.
Okay.
Not that your answer would be lame, but it's just...
Well, something more unique. Like a unique question.
So I want to ask, if we asked your friends, what's something that they would say, oh, that's Reagan?
Ooh, that's a good question. If you were to ask my friends, I don't know. I feel like, honestly, they tell me this all the time. They're like, you're so silly. You're silly. You're a silly gal. Kind of just bringing that vibe to the party, just being, I don't know,
the
random.
Vibe of the party.
Yeah, you know what I mean? A lot of random energy going on.
Yeah.
So I think maybe just the silliness. Some people have just told me, like, you're very sweet. That doesn't sound very humble, though. I don't know.
People just tell me I'm the sweetest person
ever.
Yeah,
like, I'm the best person ever. Like,
that's funny.
Yeah, what's a more maybe not, I don't know, maybe more of a vulnerable attribute? I don't know, because I feel weird saying, yeah, my friends say that, this and that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would honestly just go with, like, a silly personality, maybe.
Yeah. I like that. And I would definitely agree. I would add more to that. I would say we're friends. So I would say I'm one of those people that can say that. I would also say that you have the most open mind I've ever seen.
Wow.
Like, you never just saying yes. Well, let me not say it like that because that sounds bad.
Saying yes to everything?
Yeah, but it's not.
No, I get you.
Still with self-respect.
But
I'm saying you don't let things close you off. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So
I appreciate that, Celeste.
Yeah. I want to ask, we were just talking a little bit off camera, how your experience in the church and how you grew up in the church. But can we expand more on that and your experience in ministry? Would you say that you have ministry experience?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So, yeah, I did grow up in the church. Both of my parents are Seventh-day Adventists, so I grew up Seventh-day Adventist. In the church, I mean, you kind of have those roles like children's story or maybe AY, which I don't know if they call it AY here, but for those of you who know what AY is, Adventist Youth, and it's just a Friday night, Saturday night opportunity for people to get together, and it's a fun time. Sometimes you organize that, you sing songs, it's a great time. So, helping out with that. I've spoken up in church, I've spoken in front of church before, so that's kind of nice.
Yeah.
So I think maybe in that aspect, like, I have had experience, which I don't know if that's typical of SDA kids growing up in the church, like, yeah, I did tithes and offering kind of thing. I think I maybe definitely was that kid. But yeah, most recently, which you came to, I did preach at a church, and that was awesome. That was a great experience. The preparation experience, too, that changes you for sure. The research that kind of goes into preparing a sermon. But yeah, most recently, I'm kind of in the ministry of Bible study, and I have this Bible study, and it's called Active Minds. A little,
little plug.
A little plug, really quick. You guys should go. Active Minds, Thursday, 7. And
be there.
Yeah, be there, be square. And we have a good time. I mean, we talk about mental health. Since I'm a psychology major, that's something that I'm really big on is mental health. especially in the students' hemisphere. I mean, anybody really, but since we're on campus, I think it just makes sense to have that Bible study, right? With all of these students who are always talking about mental health, but nobody really attributes the Bible to it for some reason. I'm like, we're a religious campus. Like, we should be intertwining these two. So that's basically what we talk about. I think maybe the previous Bible studies, what we would do is we would look at something, for example, cognitive dissonance, explain what this is, and then look at people in the Bible who have cognitive dissonance and kind of like what they did with that. Good examples, bad examples. What does the Bible tell us about this, right? Or learned helplessness, for example. So it's just kind of cool to see this in real life, but also the Bible is the same Bible as yesterday as it is today. Like, it still applies, you know what I mean? Have you heard that before? The same God yesterday is the same God today. And I love that because it's true. And so, yeah, that's kind of what I'm involved in right now, is really looking at that. And I don't know, I love it. I love doing Bible studies just because I like listening to everyone's perspective. Sometimes I gain more out of it than I feel like everyone else does, even though I prepare. Sometimes it's really interesting because I'll prepare a lot, and then the Holy Spirit will just lead it in a totally different direction. And I think that that's more valuable, listening to what the Holy Spirit wants you to say, guides you to say, other than sticking strictly to okay, we have to, to the script. Like, we have to be talking about this. We have to, you know? Yeah. But yeah, so I've definitely been blessed by it.
That's good. I have so many questions I want to ask to that. I want to ask specifically about psychology and your ministry, because I see both of those two are very evident in your life. How do you connect the two?
That's a good question. So for me, this is kind of how I look at it. I have some friends who are like history majors, or maybe have different career sets, different mindsets, different worldviews. So I'm aware that people look at the Bible differently. So, for example, I have a friend, his name is Josh. Shout out to Josh. He also has a podcast.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah. And he is very much into history. So when he looks at the Bible, he looks at the history behind it, like American history, world history, but then how that applies to like biblical history. So he comes at it with a different lens. Whereas when I look at the Bible, I look at it as in like, okay, for example, peer pressure. We look at like Caiaphas and Pilate and Jesus before he's about to be crucified. And while my friend may look at the history behind that and like the Jews, blah, 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 I'm looking at like, well, why did he decide to do that? What is this peer pressure? What's going on here? Why do people do what they do? And so, I don't know. I feel like that's what makes the Bible so interesting, though, is that people have these different perspectives and lenses that the Lord allows us to look at it. And so maybe something that I'm presenting to you, you haven't heard before just because you have a different lens, and then vice versa. And so for me, since psychology is kind of my thing, as of right now, I don't know if it's going to change. I don't know. But right now, I feel like that's my calling. There's a lot of things that I kind of see, and I kind of want to like share with other people who are also interested in mental health. And having that hemisphere of people who are interested in the same thing, I don't know, bouncing off of each other is just so easy. You know what I mean? And maybe people who aren't really interested in mental health, they still come on by, and I feel like they still learn something. I don't want to speak on other people's behalf, but I feel like they learned something.
Yeah. That's good. Do you see pastoring being part of your future?
Ooh, pastoring. I don't know. I think maybe not. I think maybe a branch of that I could possibly see is maybe missionary work, just because missionary work is more out in the field, and that's something that I feel more called to do as of right now. I feel like I'm young, I have energy, right? I can go do those things. Maybe when I'm 30 or 40, that's probably going to change.
She just called everyone that's 30 or 40 old.
Oh, not like that.
No, I'm joking.
But young at heart.
That's funny. No, I'm just joking.
Yeah. But yeah, to answer your question, I feel like being a pastor, that's so much responsibility, so much work that I don't even know if I'd have the experience for. Not to say that God can't use someone like me, maybe to give me that experience, but man, as of right now, I can't fit myself into that box. I don't think so.
Yeah. Interesting. I would love to do a follow-up episode 10 years from now to see where you've been and if pastoring has become part of your future.
Yeah. And my future church that I'm a pastor of.
Mm-hmm. That'd be really cool. I do want to ask, I feel like, I mean, you kind of answered it, but I want to know more about what did you feel like, because I know, especially in Andrews, there's so many different, especially small groups, Bible studies that are already around. What made you feel like something was missing?
Yeah, so there are a lot of clubs on campus, but I think something that's been really recent are these anchor groups. I don't know if you've heard of them. I feel like they've been doing a lot of promotion recently, and that didn't exist, I think, 3 years ago when I was a freshman. Well, 4 years ago. Yeah, when I was a freshman, that didn't exist, and I feel like it was really lacking in the way that we go to Vespers, but on a Friday night, right? We do whatever we want during the week, but then when it's the weekend, we decide, okay, I guess I'll be spiritual now. And it's weird because Bible study should just be ingrained in our everyday lives. Like, we should be having devotions, and on top of that, it fosters community. For me personally, like, I've heard a lot of people here say there's a lack of community, and I mean, to each their own, but I think Bible study brings a lot more than what people realize that it can bring. I mean, I've talked to some people, and they're like, Bible study, I don't know, that seems like a lot of work, but it shouldn't be kind of a burden. I mean, I feel like being excited about a Bible study, and then you can talk to people about it. I mean, just being in the Word. Yeah, I feel like there was a really big lack there on this campus. And so right now I'm really excited because of this new movement with the anchor groups. And there's so many Bible studies where if I said I have a mental health Bible study, and you're like, nah, my mental health is good, I don't need all that, then there's 10 other ones you can go to. I forgot how many, but there's so many other ones that you can go to that kind of like fits your fancy. But at the end of the day, even if you're not really big into that specific genre of Bible study, you should still attend either way. Like, it's going to be a blessing either way if you're in the Bible one way or another, right? Because to be honest, I don't think we're really in our Bibles every day by ourselves. At least go to a Bible study where some other people are there kind of fostering that. And I feel like that also propels us to do it on our own. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's a big thing that a lot of people are noticing is that it's all the weekend. And not even the whole weekend, just Saturday. Well, for us it's Saturday, or others it's Sunday. But it's like, it shouldn't end there.
Right. Yeah. It's like that 24-hour period. I go to church. You know, I sit in the pew, and then I kick it back, right after. Sun is going down. What hour does it go down? All right, and then I'm out. You know what I mean? It's like, why are we counting down the time that we're spending with God? Shouldn't that be every single day? And with the devil, he's like, I'll give you Sabbath. You can have Sabbath. Every other day is mine. You know what I mean?
Wow. That gave me goosebumps. I can't even lie to you. That's a clip. Wow.
Clip that. See you on Instagram.
That was good. Wow.
Yeah. That's how he gets us.
Taking these steps in leadership. I don't know if you consider them leadership, but they're leadership.
Yeah.
Taking these steps in leadership, what made you want to do that instead of just being a consumer?
Yeah, I think we're all kind of called to lead in our own way. And I know a lot of people kind of think, oh, leading, that puts me in a spotlight. But not really. I mean, what's that verse in the Bible where it talks about a body, and a body can't fully function without the eyes, without the fingers, without the feet, right? And we may think that since the brain is the control system, that's the most important part, where the brain is the most important part. But at the end of the day, if you want to be a full functioning human being, you need all parts. And so while this may be the pastor, right, everything else plays such a critical role. And these things are like the leaders of picking up things. You know what I mean? Like, there's different parts that may seem small, but they're still kind of leading in their own way, right? Because the pastor can't do it all. We should all be fully functioning. And so kind of to answer your question, I guess I didn't really see it as leading as much as I did just doing my part, feeling convicted, called to do something. And if other people kind of want to like follow that, I feel like they'll eventually figure out what their conviction or calling is. And I think there are some aspects to leading, But I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would probably say all of us in our own way kind of have leadership. Even if you look at maybe the AV at church, they're kind of leading that room, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, just those different responsibilities, I would say.
That's a good shout out, actually, for those AV people. While they're not on stage,
You're
they're
noticed.
they are noticed.
Yeah.
They're part of the program. Nothing would have run without them.
Nothing runs without them. And just because the people are up there singing and they get spotlight, which I don't think it should be spotlight, right? Like, this isn't a concert. People who are back there, like, putting in the work, preparing the potluck, I mean, come on now, like, I'm trying to eat. So I appreciate those people, you know?
Yeah. Got to get people fed. That's good.
Yeah,
That's good.
very true.
Wow. From there, I do want to talk about, you recently spoke, as you said, about Jesus is turning water into wine. And I want to ask, what inspired that sermon?
Oh, yeah, like the content of the sermon. Yeah. So this is going to be kind of a lame answer, I'm not going to lie. I had a class.
Oh, yes.
And the professor chose that for me.
Oh, no.
So, yes, yeah, the professor, I was like, was I inspired? Yeah, you know what, though? The interesting thing is I didn't want to do it. So I actually didn't want to talk about Jesus turning water into wine, because when's the last time you've ever heard a sermon about that? Has anyone, at least for me personally, maybe there's some Bible scholars out there, or maybe it is common, but just for me personally, I've never really even heard the background behind Jesus turning water into wine. I'm like, I don't want to look this up. Give me something I know, like the 10 lepers, one comes back. I'm like, oh, I can do that because I've done a Bible study on that before. Give me something easy, right? Yeah. So he gives me this. Like, man, I have to do research. And so, I go to the library, and I actually used a book at the library. Like, what? I looked at the commentaries, and I did a lot of research. And through that, doing something I didn't want to do, but I did anyway, I was like, I'm like Jonah right now, trying to run away from something that I need to do. Yeah, I gained a lot of insight on that. To be honest. And now I know something that I wouldn't have known before. And I think maybe that's something that I do a lot. I just kind of look at the easy way out. What's something I already know? And then I'll talk about that. But yeah, so maybe that's kind of interesting. Something I didn't want to do, but I actually gained fulfillment from it.
Interesting. This is exactly what I mean by you keeping your open mind. And because, I know so many people that would have, in the context of class or not, there isn't really much that you can debate your professor on, or make him change his mind. But it's still that willingness, not only just to do it, but to do it and find, you know what I mean? And open your mind to take something out of it. I think that's... I also did want to ask about your passion for ministry, because I know, like you said, you grew up in the church, but I know a lot of people that have grown up in the church and that passion is just not there. It's just routine. Where did that passion come from?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of it is relationship. I think we do a lot of things out of tradition. Like you were saying, we do a lot of things where we're inside, we're just kind of like sleeping, and we're doing it out of habit. And then there comes a point where you think to yourself and you're like, why am I actually doing this? And so they leave the church. Because at the root of it, would you rather have a devoted disciple or someone who's struggling, but they're still showing up and they're trying, right? But they recognize that they're struggling, but they know the purpose behind it. They know the root of it. But there's a lot of individuals where they're just doing it out of ritual, basically, and it means nothing. So why should they stay, right? And so I think maybe I used to be like that, and maybe I used to kind of just do it out of, well, I was born this way, I was born into it. But then I started really looking at, but why am I doing this though? Yeah. And it kind of hit me when I started fostering a relationship with Christ, and then I started feeling convicted, and I asked God, and I think maybe sometimes we're scared to ask God, like, what's the worst that's going to happen is he doesn't respond, or maybe we get a response we don't like. But when I started actually having a conversation with God and asking him, like, where is it that you see me? Because I don't know. Where do you really want me, right? And that's when I started seeking that purpose, like his purpose, not my purpose, because my purpose is totally different. Like my will is totally different from his will, right? Yeah. And so clinging on to what he wants me to do, that gave me fulfillment that I could never foster for myself. Like I could never, because everything that I would do out of those rituals and habits in church, that doesn't bring any fulfillment at all. And so I don't know, I think I see that a lot, and I think I maybe saw that in myself too. And so that's kind of where I got this idea of this ministry, right? It's like, wait, this is something that I'm passionate about, and something that I didn't come up with, that all came from him, right? And there's something there's a need in this community. And how was I going to know? I don't know everyone's minds. I don't know the needs, right? That's something that kind of came from the Holy Spirit. Yeah.
Interesting. Something that you just said that stuck with me, which might be common sense to everybody else, but I mean, it really is common sense, but the concept of a conversation with God instead of just asking him.
It's personal.
Yeah, it's more relational than it is just waiting for him to do something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean, because I think used to, in my prayer life, I was struggling because right before I went to bed, I'd be like, bless my family, bless me, you know, just doing this checklist kind of thing. And so, again, it was very ritualistic. And I was like, well, as long as I get my prayer in, I'm good for the day. And he doesn't care about that ritualistic thing, like those things that we are giving him just on a silver shiny platter, you know, hiding all the things that he already knows, and he's like, just present it to me. He doesn't care about all of this performativeness, I don't know if that's a word, but these actions that we're bringing to the table. Like, he wants you, he wants your heart, he wants your soul. That's what he's asking for. I mean, whether it's bloody and bruised and vulnerable, that's what he actually wants. And so putting up this mask for God, like, isn't that kind of silly? He knows you already. He knows every hair on your head. Why are you trying to mask it? But I don't know if that's just kind of how we are, trying to be this performative way. But when you let those walls down, that's when that just vulnerability and that relationship is able to be fostered, I would have to say. And so I think that's really hard for us to do, even with God. You know, like, it's hard for us to do with people for obvious reasons. But with God, it's like, man, why is it so hard? But when we are vulnerable and we do take that extra, maybe like 5 minutes just to talk to him, because I would say in the prayer life also, it can be difficult because we're like, what do I even talk about? You know, what do I even tell him? He already knows everything. But he wants to know. Even the small things, he wants to know. Because, I mean, you become more who you hang around, right? So are we hanging around him? Are we becoming like him? That kind of thing.
Interesting. Yeah. I feel like most of the time you hear people say, oh, be careful the people who you hang around with, instead of focusing on hanging around with God.
Yeah.
Interesting. Assuming that you've been around other people that have, you know, grown up in the church and maybe lost it, or maybe like a lukewarm Christian, I guess is the term.
Sure.
How would you say that you have noticed why they're leaving the church?
Why?
If that makes sense.
No, actually, so I did like a little study on this in high school. I read Screwtape Letters, if anybody knows what that is. I love Screwtape Letters. It's by C.S. Lewis. Love C.S. Lewis. So I looked at that, and this is basically just a book on the perspective of the devil, and it's the devil tempting an individual. And so it'll say things like, you know, just, you know, get a little bit farther from your mom, like your mom's kind of annoying, right? And just planting little seeds in an individual's mind from his perspective, right? And so after reading that, I was like, dang, let me look at why people leave the church. And so I looked at statistics and reasons and kind of combined both of them, like the narrative, but then you also have the statistics, right? And so it was for, again, a class, right? And they said we could write about anything we wanted to, so I was like, I'm writing about this.
Wow.
And so from my personal experience, people I've met, and then also, I guess, the research, I would say there's a big loss of community. People, have you ever heard that quote, people won't remember what you said, people won't even really remember what you did, but they'll remember how you made them feel.
Yeah.
And so that's something that's really big. When someone comes into a church, it's how you make them feel. Do you make them feel welcome? Do you make them feel like the love of God? Literally the love of God. I mean, are we having that community? And I'd say no. I think I've gone to a lot of churches and I've sat there and I'm kind of just like, I'm an extroverted person, I would say. I'm like, let me see if anybody approaches me. Nobody.
Wow.
Nobody. And I would just sit in the back of the church. I'm like, come on now. Anybody out there? And so,
wow.
yeah. And so I'm like, wow, this is a big need. Now imagine someone who's really extremely introverted, or imagine someone who's just gone through, I don't know, financial loss, a breakup, mourning, anything. And their last hope that they're clinging onto is going to church and maybe finding some sort of love, because that's what we're lacking, right? And we see that all throughout the New Testament. Love, the most important. What is it? The verse, one of the, there's faith, hope, trust, I don't know, but the most important is love, right? And so, man, I mean, I just see that love lacking, and so they'll go and find it somewhere else. Because there is some form of love, I guess you could say. I don't think anything, I wouldn't characterize love as anything else that doesn't come from God, because God is love, right? So if you're finding something else that you can characterize as love, I don't think it exists.
It's disguised as love, yeah.
Exactly. It's masked. And so how are we as a church not showing something that's purely God? Like, do we have the Holy Spirit? Do we have God? Because if we're not showing love, what is it that we have? Is it fake, right? And so I can kind of understand why someone would walk away when they don't feel that relationship, right? Because for someone who's never really even known of religion, heard of Jesus, heard of Christianity, what are they going to know except the actions and love that you show them? Because they're not going to know prophecy. They're not going to know everything else that you can be on their head. What they're going to experience is love, because that's something that they're needing. That's something that we want as a human, right? So I guess I could go on about that forever, right?
Good. Yeah.
But yeah, I would say maybe that's number one. There's a lot of reasons, but if I had to boil it down, keep it short and simple, I would just say the lack of love. And I feel like God talks about that a lot, or less. I think Jesus talks about that a lot, and that's kind of the one that we ignore. And I don't know really why it's so hard for us. I don't know if that's always been a struggle throughout history, but I don't know why Gen Z is kind of struggling with that right now. But I think, to be honest, to put a more positive spin on it, I think we're kind of waking up. I do kind of see more people talking about that community aspect, and at least for me on my feed, I can see people trying so hard to break out of their shell, like rejection therapy. Yeah. So I see that a lot now, and I feel like it's become more common to be like, I'm gonna go and talk to that person anyway. And I love that so much. I think we're kind of reverting back to the idea, and I'm all here for it. I'm on board, just like going for it and just talking to people that you don't know. And I think that's so important when it comes to a church. Yeah.
Wow. I know you said you want to keep it short and simple, but I want to dive more a little bit to it. But I'll rephrase the question. And make it more about what is something that you've noticed, maybe not even just specific to churches, but ministries in general. What's something that you think could be done better?
Not really how ministries should be done better, but a ministry that we should implement. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think we need to go outside of the church more. I think that we are in the church so much. We go to church on Saturday and we talk to the same people we see every Saturday. Why is the baptismal pool empty every Saturday? I mean, when is the last time really that we've gone out and we've planted a seed? And I mean, I think it's important to plant churches, right? But I mean planting a seed as in just going out and talking to someone who's never heard the name of Christ. I mean, what's our focus, right? What's our purpose as a church? Is it to come to church every single Sabbath and kind of just like keep everyone positive. And I mean, what are we doing, right?
Yeah.
We're all coming to the same place to fall asleep together.
Yeah.
Why would anyone want to join that, to sleep with us? And so it doesn't really make any sense. And so I think going out into the community, like, there's so many students on campus, there's so many people on fire for God. What are we doing with that? We're making like great programs and events for our students, but what about everyone else who's never heard of him before? I feel like we need to share that. And so I feel like a ministry would just kind of be like, if whatever it is, if it's men's ministry, women's ministry, go find people who have never heard of Jesus before and kind of implement that, which I recognize that that's very hard to do. Easier said than done, for sure. But I think wherever two or more are gathered, and also the fact that we have so many students. I mean, just God can use one person, right, to make such a big effect. Look at Paul. We have so many students. So think of the impact that we could make just with 3 or 4, and how many people show up to proximity. Imagine all those people going out into the community. I mean, there would have to be an impact. They couldn't ignore us. There'd be no way. And so, I mean, just being willing to do that, oh, man, I would love to see it.
Yeah, that's good. What would you say is a good way to do that?
So something that I'm seeing with the anchor groups is they're doing that. So the anchor groups will go out into the community, and I'm giving like a really big plug right now just because, man,
it's good.
I've been seeing change with that group.
Wow.
And so the anchor groups, which didn't exist 4 years ago, all of a sudden just started going, and more people are kind of hopping on the bandwagon, and they will go out into the community and they will knock on doors. And I've heard nowadays that people are like, that doesn't work, knocking on doors. No, knock on doors. Continue to knock on doors. It does work. Why? Because people are lonely, and a lot of people work from home, actually. And so someone coming to the door and you're talking to them face to face, they're like, oh, this is a human, right? And so just knowing that you're there, I mean, going and knocking on doors and having conversations, especially for old people. You can kind of get old people with that because they're lonely, I guess. But
True.
I would say just quite literally getting in the car, going to the community, and giving pamphlets and knocking on doors. And I know it's so old school, I know, but I think it works. Yeah.
Interesting.
Sometimes we lose sight of the purpose of ministry and what it's really calling us to do, right? Since we're all different, Jesus calls us to do different things, and so he calls us into different ministries. I mean, we're not all going to hop on the same ministry. That would be boring and it'd be weird. But I think that it's important to recognize that calling. And I think, I mean, for example, you know that you're good with media. You know that you're good with communication. So you're like, I'm going to do a podcast, right? That's something I couldn't do, but that's something that I admire. And so I think sometimes people are like, well, I don't know where the Lord is leading me. And I would say just start, whether you know if you're going to like it or not, especially if you're young, especially if you're in your 20s or before you're even in your 20s, it doesn't matter. Especially if you're young, just start somewhere. If you don't like it, you just keep moving. You'll still gain experience from it. Yeah. You just keep moving, and God is going to slowly find you your niche. And for some people, it's obvious, right? For some people, it's like, I want to be a pastor, and that's great. You should go do that. For other people's, it's more niche, but because of that nicheness, they'll grab an audience that pastors maybe couldn't, or that maybe my Bible study couldn't. And so it's just the willingness, you know? Because so many are called, but so few are willing.
I do want to say this is kind of my life's motto, and it's something I'm so passionate about, is that, like you said, you just start. There's nothing like, you don't wait till you're perfect at something, because I believe that there's an audience for everybody. That's my big thing, is that whether you think, oh, but there's other people more qualified, oh, there's this thing that already exists. There's an audience for everybody.
And I think that also kind of ties into like our relationship with Christ. I've heard before, like, I need to fix this about myself before I can go to Christ. That makes no sense, right?
Yeah.
It's like, let me fix myself and then I'll go to the hospital. Doesn't make any sense. And so with Christ, he's just sitting there waiting, like, when will it start? Because we're like, oh, I have tomorrow, right? I have tomorrow, which is the devil's favorite word, is that you have tomorrow, because you really don't, right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, how many years do we have left on this planet? Nobody really knows. And so kind of, I like your motto, your life's motto, just start. Whether you know if it's going to be good, if it's going to be rough, whatever, Jesus is just kind of sitting there waiting at the table. And I saw this online, and I thought it was, I don't know, I thought it was sad but cute, but it was like a little picture of Jesus sitting at a coffee shop, and it was with the inscription like, okay, I'll read my Bible tomorrow, and there he is waiting tomorrow for you. And nobody's there.
Yeah.
Because we keep putting it off. And so that's true, I think, with ministry, with our personal relationship with Christ. I mean, just start, right? And I don't really know what the reason is that's holding us back, but I think the devil has been around humans for a long time, and so he knows how to hold us back.
Yeah. That's good. I'm curious, what is something, it's very clear that you're well educated and you read lots of books. What's something that inspires you? Or like a book you've read that like you hold, or a favorite verse, or like a motto?
Yeah. Well, I would say, again, C.S. Lewis. He's a really good author. So if anybody really likes narratives or more story-based, you have that. You have Pilgrim's Progress. That's more story-based, but you can still gain a lot from it. I would say if you want something more, I guess, educational, straight up facts, just boom, boom, boom. You can highlight every single line because each one is a banger. Ellen G. White, man.
Really?
Ellen G. White.
Wow.
I mean, you got Steps to Christ, Desire of Ages. It's so weird because with that, I mean, she backs up everything with the Bible, but also if you just want a one-liner, open up that book and you can kind of just highlight and go, go, go. So I think there's just so many. Oh, wait. Project Sunlight. Project Sunlight is so good. Again, it's a narrative. And it's behind the scenes, not this time like what I was saying with Screw Tape Letters, from the devil's perspective, but it's from God's perspective. So it's a guardian angel.
Wow.
And so it's what the guardian angel's thought process is. Like, come on, you're so close, just pick up the Bible kind of thing. So Project Sunlight is really good. And final one that I want to mention is it's Gateway into the Supernatural. I think that one's pretty popular, especially among Adventists. And I could be saying it wrong. I always get the title wrong, but I think it's Gateway into the Supernatural by Morneau.
Okay.
And it's basically the spiritual warfare that's going on. And it's this guy that... Have you heard about it?
No.
Okay. And it's basically, to keep it short, a guy who isn't Seventh-day Adventist, but he stumbles into spiritualism and a devil worshiper, but then he comes out of it. So he reveals all the secrets in Satanism. And they say, one line that I highlighted because I thought it was crazy, they said that we should be scared, as the devils or the demons or whatever, we should be scared of the Seventh-day Adventists. And so it's really interesting because this is a true story, and he converts to Adventism. And there's just so many secrets in this book that I think we should all be aware about in the spiritual warfare that's going on. So that one, for sure, if you have to take away anything, read that book. Read that book, please.
Wow.
It's
What's
so
it called
good.
again?
Gateway into the Supernatural. And if I said it wrong, put here the actual title.
I'll put it.
But it's by Morneau, yeah.
Wow. That's good. That's good. I have to get more into reading because I've been reading the same book for 3 years.
That's real, though.
That's really good. Do you have any tips on how to get through a book?
I would say you have to start with the narrative books.
Yeah.
You'd have to start with the books that are just, they pique your interest because it's a story. So you're like, oh, what happens next? I mean, think about Jesus. He's talking with parables because he knows people's attention spans, right? Even back then. Now imagine our attention spans today in the 21st century. Yes. Yeah, so I'd say start with the story books that you can gain something from. And then after that, it's really easy to kind of dive into those books where you just want information.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's good. I have noticed that a lot. The books I've been reading are a lot of self-help books and just telling me everything that I'm doing wrong in my life.
It's a lot.
So
it's a lot.
Maybe that's why it takes so long to read it.
Yeah, it takes you might have to take like a week or something to just kind of space out. You're like, all right, I get it. I need help.
That's funny. That's true. Thank you so much for your time and your insight.
That's it.
Already feel so much wiser.
Oh my goodness.
If you liked this episode and you want to support this podcast, please like the video, subscribe so you can see more, and comment so we know what you think. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.